Hello and welcome to EXP Required, where we talk about Final Fantasy and other things. I'm Jack, and I'm joined by Mole. How are you doing, Mole?
Jack, I'm bloody exhausted. You're making me do this after a full work day, after a full work week, rather than our usual weekend recording, and I just want to be in bed. But because I love you so much, because I'm so devoted to this podcast, to Final Fantasy, I'm here. I'm doing this for you. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm doing well, and I get to talk about the weather today, because this is the first time we're recording at night. It's dark. There we go. That's the weather for you, and it's rainy and horrible. It's also great to be joined by a wonderful guest, Mr. Robert Pearson. It's
Hello.
a formal way, isn't it? How you doing, Rob?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me. Just to tell you, Mole, it's actually my fault, I think, that we're recording
Okay, well, I know where to direct the blame then.
on a weekday evening. Yeah, so direct all of your ire my way.
But it's much more fun to do it with Jack. I know he's available any time of the day.
Yeah, well, you know, I quite liking this recording in the evening thing. I feel a bit more awake in some ways. Maybe that's something about me. I don't know. But anyway, yes, obviously, Rob, this feels weird. We talked about this off camera and everything like that, but we're going to talk about a bit about, I guess, your career in gaming history, and then digging into Final Fantasy VII, which you've said is your favourite Final Fantasy game.
I have said that.
You have said that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that changes all the time. Yeah, so basically, just to start, one of the main things about looking at your stuff, especially on Access through the years, is you've talked a lot about Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII being the big games for you, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one, which would it be? Or which has had more influence on you, do you think? You don't have to say Final Fantasy to appease us, by the way. So.
I think it would be Final Fantasy VII. Metal Gear Solid is very special for me. A, it's a great game, but B, it was a game that my dad showed particular interest in. I didn't have a load of bonding experiences with my dad when I was a kid. You know, I always wanted him to play football with me, but he was more of a rugby man. But he was really into Metal Gear. He always sort of poo-pooed gaming a little bit, and always thought it would be something I grew out of when I got older. But he would really enjoy watching me play Metal Gear Solid, and I remember him exclaiming, "Oh, this is like a film! This is amazing!" So that was a very special experience for me as a kid. So it's got quite a special place in my heart, Metal Gear Solid. But Final Fantasy has always been for me the number one thing. I love stories like that. I used to devour fantasy books when I was younger, before I even started playing video games, and then I think video games like Final Fantasy sort of took that spot, or existed in that same space for me. That they gave me that escapism in the same way that books did. And you know, there are so many parallels between, I think, the Final Fantasy games of the PS1 era in particular and fantasy novels for me. Modern games are very cinematic, but I feel like the RPGs of that era had more in common with a novel than they did with films. You know, they're based on tabletop role-playing games a lot of the time, but just the whole speech bubble thing. You have to hold each character and how they sound in your mind, in your imagination, rather than it all just being put out there for you. So I remember with great fondness that summer where I did nothing but play Final Fantasy VII for months on end, and it was just glorious.
So when you say kid, I'm assuming like quite young. Am I right in that assumption?
When I played Final Fantasy VII, I would have been about 12 or 13, I think.
Okay. So was that like your first introduction to video games, or did you start a bit earlier than that?
I had played very casual. I think the first console I got was a NES. My dad had got one second hand. So when I was about maybe 8 or 9, I had access to Mario and Duck Hunt, and that was basically it. And I wanted so badly to play other games, and I would go to my friends' houses and I'd play on their PlayStations. But I didn't get a PlayStation until maybe halfway through the cycle of the PS1 generation, a PlayStation of my own. I think it was my 12th birthday that I got one. So I didn't truly start properly playing games until then.
No, I feel that. I know I've spoken about this before, and long-time listeners will definitely get bored of me saying the same stories over and over, but I first started watching my dad playing video games, I must have been about 5 or 6, and then it still took a few years before I was gifted one at Christmas for my very own, and that was like... I remember the gulf of just thinking about video games while not being able to play them for the longest time, and then finally having access and being like, oh my God, like this is a new world that I get to do anything in. And then of course you only have like 2 games because, you know, there's only limited money, there's only limited games, there's no such thing as an online network at that age. And trying to talk to other people who played games and getting them to like lend you their stuff, that was next to impossible. I don't know about you.
I think just having like you say, you don't have many games when you're a kid. You don't have your own spending power. But I didn't need many. I was lucky enough to have, Final Fantasy VII. I had Final Fantasy VIII as well. And I had Metal Gear Solid. I had a few others like Crash Bandicoot 3 and whatnot. And I would just replay. I'd finish Final Fantasy VII and I would play Final Fantasy VIII. And I'd finish that and I'd just go back and play Final Fantasy VII again.
Yep.
7, 8 and 9, I've probably played each of them all the way through 5 or 6 times.
Just 5 or 6? Rob, those are low numbers.
But during that sort of 3 or 4 year period between the ages of, 12 and 16, probably.
Yeah, and that's when they really make their mark as well.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I was the perfect age to be completely hooked by that kind of story, for sure.
Yeah, interesting what you were saying there before about playing something with, I think you both mentioned about playing stuff or watching parents play stuff. It's definitely a different vibe, isn't it? Because my early days of gaming were playing with my dad, playing Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, which is a point-and-click game on PC. And really nice memories of that being my early gaming memories. But then for me, when I got a PlayStation, it was mine. You know what I mean? And they're both very treasured periods of time. But actually having something that's your own that you can sort of, for want of a better term, fall in love with in a way and sort of nurture, it's something very magical.
It became quite a safe space for me. My PlayStation in my bedroom. I had a little hand-me-down CRT television that my mum gave me. The sound and picture quality on it was terrible. So my first experience playing Final Fantasy VII, it would have looked and sounded awful, but for some reason it didn't prove to be any kind of barrier for me to get completely lost in that world. And games are an amazing social thing, and experiencing them with family members and friends is magical. But I think there's a real quality to being able to escape in your own space with a game like a Final Fantasy VII. In your own bedroom, you shut the door, you have your snacks, and nothing else exists outside of that space.
Turn into a video game Gollum about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Video game Gollum. Oh, you mentioned Gollum. Yeah. One question I've got, you mentioned fantasy books, and this is going to be quite a self-indulgent question, this.
Yeah.
But I've heard you on other podcasts talk about Redwall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favourite Redwall book?
My first one was Salamanderstron, which that was the first one I read. I saw it in Waterstones, thought the cover looked cool. And so that one always has like a fond place in my heart. But I think my favourite was probably Mossflower, which I think at the time, chronologically, it was the second one in the series. But I remember being absolutely terrified by the villain in it, this wild cat called Sarmina or Sarmina, I don't know how you pronounce it. And she was terrifying. And I remember reading this at my grandma's house. I read it by moonlight. I was staying in the back bedroom. I wasn't supposed to be reading. It was probably like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, so I couldn't have the light on. So I sort of like opened the curtain a little bit, and the moon shone through, and I just held the book up to the window, and I was just, devouring this thing. But yeah, Mossflower I thought was great. I can't remember how many books there ended up being in the Redwall series, but I think by the time I stopped reading them, there was maybe 12 or 13. And then Brian Jacks sadly died a few years later. But yeah, that was an amazing series for me as a kid. Absolutely loved those books.
So just to jump in on that one, I'm guessing this is a just fantasy story series then.
Yes.
Yeah, with animals.
With animals. Starring animals,
okay.
Fabulous. Like Lord of the Rings meets Animals with Farthing Wood. I think it's a great way
to describe it, yeah.
Yeah. I loved Mossflower. It's one of my favourites. And you just completely pinged a memory, because at the beginning of the chapters of each of the Redwall books, they had pictures of the stuff. And there's a chapter at the end of that with an actual face of
Sarmina, yeah.
And it's terrifying. Absolutely. And I remember trying to get through that page really quickly.
Yeah.
Because it terrified me. Oh my God. That's just come out of nowhere.
That's a standout memory for me. That's a proper sort of seeing the weeping angels in Doctor Who for the first time moment, like a real childhood terror for me, but like a thrilling one. Yeah, those books are so good. They're so British as well, like the characters full of British wildlife having adventures and going on journeys through these child-friendly Tolkien-esque landscapes. And I loved the bits where they would just sit down and get out like a picnic blanket and the descriptions of the food in it, I just remember so vividly, just making my mouth water all the time, like constantly drinking dandelion and burdock cordial and things like that. It's so twee, so British, but absolutely brilliant. I'm meaning to read them to my daughter. She's 10 now, so I think
really cool.
Sort of like the perfect age to sort of revisit.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to let us know if it stands up to the test of time then.
I hope it does.
I think it does. I mean, I could probably talk about Redwall for hours. Well, more remembering, because that's been so long. I had to ask that question. It's a bit of self-indulgence.
No, I'm pleased to be able to speak about it. Massive fond memories of Redwall.
Okay, I guess a broad question about, because obviously you talked about early gaming life, and I'm sure this is a question you've been asked a lot, but it's obviously your job now is very gaming focused. So I guess it's talking about how you got into that. What drove towards your, I guess, career in games journalism and games media?
Yeah, so I was always a big fan of video game magazines. I used to religiously read official PlayStation magazine and PSM2, which later became PSM3 back in the day, and always dreamed of, as I'm sure many people did, of being able to write the articles in the magazine and to see my name on the byline and to see my picture in the Meet the Team page at the beginning. And it wasn't something I ever really seriously considered pursuing. I'd graduated from university. I did a film and television degree, and I was working in London as a runner/edit assistant and not having the best time. And I just decided, Final Fantasy XIII had just come out and I didn't particularly enjoy it. So I thought, why not just have a go at this? I wrote a review. I tried to make it as snappy and as funny and as witty as the reviews that were in those magazines. My wife, girlfriend at the time, she was a graphic designer, so she helped make like a fake magazine. And we made this fake magazine. We put my review in. I sellotaped a Kit Kat to the front cover as like a cover mount. And the magazine was called Give Me a Break magazine, and I thought that was very clever. And so I sent it to official PlayStation magazine asking for a job.
Did you send it with the Kit Kat?
With the Kit Kat.
Okay, good.
Because I thought my thinking was they're at least going to have to say thank you for the Kit Kat. I figured that loads of people would be sending them in reviews, and I wanted them to at least have some kind of pleasurable experience whilst reading mine. And I got some work experience off the back of that for 2 weeks, and obviously just tried my absolute hardest to be not just good at writing, but also incredibly enthusiastic and not saying no to anything they asked me to do, I would do it. And then just pestered the commissioning editors for about a year after that for freelance. I think eventually one of them caved and let me review Naughty Bear for PSM2 magazine. It was like a 150 word review. I think I got paid £15 for it. But I was over the moon just to have a piece of work with my name on it published in a magazine. And it sort of snowballed from there, really. I was just very persistent, wouldn't take no for an answer, hopefully had some kind of aptitude and talent for writing. And my freelance work sort of expanded and expanded. And I was writing longer and longer reviews. They were sending me on like press trips to preview games. And then in 2011, PlayStation Access started as a thing. And I think because I'd had that maybe year or so experience of freelance writing, coupled with a background in video editing, it was sort of like the right place at the right time kind of thing, like a script writing job that also required elements of video editing. And I just, I happened to be there at the right time, and it all kicked off from there, really.
I'm actually hearing a lot of very similar elements to the story that Rosie told us. There's a lot of, I didn't seriously consider doing this, but also I just wanted to wear them down until they said yes, like the two main through lines there. I guess my question following that then is, what was it like for you jumping from writing magazine reviews essentially into doing something very similar with script writing and like video editing? Obviously, I know you've said that you've got that film and TV background, but what was that jump like for you?
It felt quite natural, really. Like when PlayStation Access started, the kind of scripts we were writing, they had the DNA of the old magazines in them. They felt very much like the kind of things I was writing for the magazines. And the things I was writing for the magazines, I was influenced and inspired by the stuff I used to read when I was a kid. So I tried to make it the same. And that evolved over time a little bit, I guess, in terms of writing for the page is not the same as writing for video, and your writing will tweak and shift a little bit as you sort of understand what works better when it's read out versus what might work better when on the page. But that's sort of like the philosophy behind it, and certainly the tone behind it was always very similar, I thought, to the stuff that was in the PlayStation magazines that I used to love when I was a kid. That sort of like not gatekeepy, but knowing authoritative voice, but also with a bit of playfulness, a little bit of irreverence. That was always what I tried to do.
I mean, I could definitely say from my point of view, that's come across. I mean, in the very limited and scattered across many years, actually, having looked at all of the dates of these videos, but across a lot of your work, I've really enjoyed that the tone has always stayed very consistent, and it has been that I know exactly what I'm talking about. This is, the facts, but also this is my personality, and part of your personality that comes through, and I don't know if this is something that you've intended to over the years, but has always been a very dry sort of no-nonsense humour, which has just been devastatingly hilarious at times. Like some of the stuff that you'll deliver with such a straight face, I imagine, is just like, oh man, how does he do that? Like, I'd be in stitches trying to read this out.
Well, I was quite a few, you only see the last take. You only see the take that survives. And I always would just try and, I had no strategy beyond just writing stuff that I thought was funny. And you mentioned getting my personality across, and, thank you for saying that. Again, that was never like a conscious decision. I would just try and write from my own experience and write what I knew and just what I thought was funny. And if other people found it funny, great. But there was no ever any sort of grand plan behind it.
Oh, wonderful.
That Final Fantasy XIII review, I love that story. I think it's really cool. There's a couple of questions I got around that.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
I
here
hope
we go.
you don't mind. So you shared that on Twitter, because I refused to call it X, some time ago.
Yeah.
And I've read it. Do you mind us quoting from it at all, very briefly?
Please do. Yeah, I can't remember. I don't think I actually have the review anywhere, so I guess it would just be a picture of the review written down.
Yeah, that's right. So you got here, but the best quote from me is, "Good 30 hours of running through beautiful, yet ultimately shallow and remarkably lifeless corridors of enemies until you reach the dreaded orange exclamation mark of doom on your mini-map that signifies either a cutscene, a boss fight, or in most cases both."
Yeah.
And I thought that's brilliant. Especially, I think you mentioned this was the first bit of writing you'd really properly done. I mean, that's pretty good for a first go, I guess. I really like that.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think I've played Final Fantasy XIII since playing it when it came out back in, must have been 2010 that it came out. So it'd be interesting to revisit it now and see what I think, because in many ways, I guess Final Fantasy XIII was a little bit ahead of its time. Like, Final Fantasy is a very restless series. It's never happy to be too traditional or to rest on its laurels. It's always trying to do the next thing. And maybe I judged it a little bit too harshly. It's simply because it wasn't the Final Fantasy that I knew and loved. And I guess there might be a little bit of that kind of fandom where it's like, oh, I know what this thing is. I know exactly how I want it to go. And Final Fantasy XIII dared to be a little bit different.
It sounds to me like a new game came out and you went, that's not Final Fantasy, just like has happened with every Final Fantasy I remember releasing in my lifetime. I remember it happening with 16, with 15, with 14. It goes on and on and on.
It's kind of like this thing that's part of the culture in a way. I mean, I'll sort of jump on it on I guess a positive spin, because obviously, I think I might have mentioned this when I spoke to you before, but a friend of mine bonded over our mutual, I think disappointment's a fairer word than hatred for Final Fantasy XIII, because I had a similar story to you, because I was like, what's this? It's very pretty, but what's going on? And when we visited it in our Final Fantasy XIII episode last year, I actually, after beating it, I had a slightly, I guess, a better take on it. I think
you liked it by the end, don't
I did like it by the end. But we bonded over, there's this guy that doesn't like Final Fantasy XIII. But what I think's interesting about that is that around the time that, I think this would have been, early access days were like 2013, 2014, a lot of the YouTube, I guess, games media stuff that didn't come from magazines, so your angry video game nerd, your sort of angry reviewer in his bedroom stuff, was always very negative in my eye. I mean, some of it's hilariously funny, but what I liked about that particular review, but also a lot of the stuff that you did around the same time, is you sort of take the piss out of stuff and dunk on it, but it was never angry. It was always, thought through. Was that always lovingly, I've written here. So is that something you did consciously to remedy that kind of negativity on the internet, or was that just something that naturally happened?
I think a little bit of both. And I grew up on YouTube watching those kind of videos as well. Like the Angry Video Game Nerd was, I remember first discovering that channel and devouring all of the videos in like an evening and just being paralyzed with laughter. Like, it's so funny. Like, I remember he did one about a really hard to get across jump in a Mario game, and he repeatedly fails and fails and fails until he realises he can just run over the top of it, and just me being in absolute hysterics. But it was that, and there was like a flight simulator game where he just couldn't land the plane or something. Just hilarious stuff. And I wouldn't say that those videos were particularly negative, despite the fact that his character was, the angry video game nerd. You could tell they were made from a place of real love for those games. And sometimes he would slate a game, but it was never. The key thing for me was it was never mean-spirited. It was never done with the sole intention of attacking the games.
Yeah.
There was always, it came from a place of loving video games and a place of wanting to enjoy video games. And, you know, we didn't set out with like a mission statement or anything. We just wanted to make the kind of videos that we wanted to watch ourselves, which were funny, hopefully, but also just a reflection of our passions. And hopefully when people watch them, they were able to see in them some of their own passions as well. Like, they're always supposed to be just a reflection of people liking video games. So, yeah, and I think that the community you build ultimately is a reflection of the content that you create. And I think the Access community is a very wholesome, welcoming, friendly community, and it's something that we are very proud of. And I hope it is that way, because the videos we make are like that. That's, you know, I've got no real desire to make videos that are just moaning about things. I'm a negative enough person in real life. I can't be doing with it in the videos as well.
I know, Jack, you've said before, like, even just making something that's middlingly negative at best, like a couple of those, it's draining, and you don't want to do it anymore after that.
When it's not true. I mean, Angry Video Game Nerd, I mean, the joke around his character was that it was more like a bit of therapy, because a lot of those very old 80s games were thrown together, you know, without any sort of love for any of the source material. There were a lot of them were licensed games, like of films and stuff, and it was just a case of, you know, shoestring budget, just throw any old rubbish out, really. So I can understand that kind of communal experience of, we felt like we were ripped off as kids, which I think a lot of people relate to, because so everyone's played at least one bad game, you know. But I think that, you know, obviously I probably may have seemed like I was being slightly unfair to the Angry Video Game Nerd there, because I think you're right. It was always loving from him. I just think there was lots of copycats around the time that maybe sort of, I guess, went for their negativity side.
Oh, for sure. There's a bunch out there, and I'm not going to say anything about how they choose to make their content. It's just not the way that we like to do ours.
Absolutely. No, I like that response. One other question that's vaguely related to that is, one thing I've always noticed is in the Access videos, is that probably the sort of video equivalent of playing to the people at the back of the hall, if that makes sense. So, like, you'll often, like, I've noticed this I watched a very early one earlier. I think it was the Saddest Moments in Games. It's from like 2014 or something like that. And you mentioning like really obscure bits. I mean, you obviously, Final Fantasy, you sort of refer to stuff as if the person you're speaking to knows all the lore. And it always feels like, yeah, that was just for me, that, because not everyone watching is going to know absolutely everything about the game. But I really like that kind of approach. Is that something that was sort of conscious?
Yeah, I guess so. I never would want to make a joke that completely went over the heads of everybody watching it, but sometimes if there's just a little thing you can include, a little throwaway moment or a little nod or a little wink, and it never is just one person. There's usually hundreds of thousands of people who will get what you're talking about. And I feel that, you know, acknowledging that depth of fandom and knowledge about certain things, and I can't do it about everything. I only probably have that kind of knowledge on Final Fantasy and Metal Gear, maybe one or two other series. And I enjoy being able to dig out those moments and then looking through the comments afterwards to see if anyone's sort of like, you know, picked up on those moments or enjoyed those moments as well. I think it's just a nice thing to be able to, without explicitly saying we both love this thing, don't we? If you can just, within the video itself, demonstrate.
If you know.
Demonstrate how much you know it, and then someone watching can just feel that little, hopefully that little twinge of, I like that as well. And it's the sort of connections you make there, I think, that's what it's about for me, is you know, writing stuff or making stuff that resonates with a shared experience for the audience. And if you can get that right, I think that's the key to people enjoying your videos, I think.
Well said. I know one of the videos that I really enjoyed preparing for chatting with you was 7 reasons that we play video games and probably always will.
Yeah.
And I agreed with every single one of those points. And it was one of those ones that I wanted to like list the points for you and ask if it was still, you still agreed with everything that you said, because I definitely agreed. I think this is, I want to say the video is probably coming up for about 10 years old at this point.
Okay.
God, but it is one of those things that, hey, no, that's fantastic.
I remember when that one came out.
But yeah, the reasons that you listed in order were escapism, education, comfort, storytelling, achievements, socialization, and to keep your inner child alive.
Yeah.
You still want to agree with that, or is there anything that you'd like to change?
Yeah, we put you on the spot there. I think no, I would agree with that. I think a lot of those things are all sort of interrelated with each other in a way. The last one is very sort of typically in a Friday feature. The last point is always quite woolly, mainly because it'll be like, oh, I thought of 6 things, I can't think of a 7th thing. What's the 7th thing going to be? And I'll just think of something. Oh, that sounds quite nice, doesn't it? But yeah, I think keeping your inner child alive is when you're an adult, you obviously don't have as much time as you do when you're a kid to play video games. And sometimes I find myself thinking, oh man, is what my dad said correct? Have I finally fulfilled his prophecy and grown out of playing video games? But then something will come along. For me, it's the Final Fantasy VII remake project at the moment. And when part 3 is eventually revealed and announced, I know how I'm going to feel about it. And it is going to be that sort of swoop of everything else is removed. For a moment, I just won't care about anything else, and I'll just be purely excited to play this game. And I think it is important as an adult to sort of afford yourself the space and the time to just enjoy things without having to worry about the stress of everything else. And it's, I play fewer video games now than I did when I was a kid, but the video games I do play and enjoy, I very deliberately select and will, invest my time in. Yeah. And it is nice to sort of carve out that space to transport yourself back to when you're a kid. You don't have to worry about as much. You just get to enjoy the thing.
See, Rob, where were you 3 hours ago when my co-workers were arguing about this very thing? And all of them were like, no, we got old. We don't really want to play games anymore. And I'm sitting there like, I'm the odd one out. I still play games. I talk about games. I think about games. I breathe. Like, what are you people doing? You're all 10 years younger than I am as well. So if you guys have hit that peak, like, good God.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think maybe there's something else that they turn to in their lives other than video games. Yeah. It doesn't have to be video games. It can be a particular movie or an album or a book or whatever it is. For me, video games are that thing, and they are great for. I'm experiencing video games in a new way very recently in terms of being able to play them with my daughter, who's now of an age where she's old enough and good enough to kick my ass at games, which is a new experience for me.
It's only going to go downhill from here, man.
But it's a new way of enjoying video games that I never expected to experience. Like Astrobot has been, I would put that up there probably in my top 10 games of all time now, purely for the experience it's given me with my daughter and seeing her gaming skill grow exponentially over the course of playing it, and just seeing her excitement for it and her love for it. It's so good.
That's really sweet. Also, especially like on the back of you saying that your dad used to watch you play games as well. So seeing that like kind of come full circle for you is like genuinely really heartwarming, actually.
Yeah, it's heartwarming until she's beating your very best times on the speedruns and dancing in your face, giving it the big I am. Yeah.
Hasn't she beaten everyone on Access's time on half of those levels?
On one of the levels, she plays Spring Loaded Run, and that's the only one she'll play. She won't try any of the others, but
because she knows she won't win any of the others. She'll stick with the ones that she can win.
She could do if she tried it, but she just likes this one so much. I think she's in the top 500 in the world on this level.
Jesus,
that's good.
And yeah, she's kicked my ass. She's beaten Rosie's time.
Oh,
so it's a properly elite time that she's managed to get on this one level, which is very cool. Like seeing her when she got that time, just shrieking and running around the living room. You do just get to enjoy the video game in like a vicarious way, and it's really nice.
That's actually really magical, that, isn't it? I mean, I think it's interesting because I think maybe you alluded to there, Mar. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like people talking about growing up and stuff like that. If you could, the thing itself isn't necessarily important. It's the feeling it gives you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's if you can, and it's an achievement. It's a skill. Playing a game. In some ways, is harder than some other things. I mean, like the amount of effort. I mean, I'm crap at Astrobot levels. I think I've not done any of the newer ones, but I think I didn't platinum it, but I beat the game. I got all the robots basically. So I did all the times enough to get the extra robots, but I never went beyond that because I was like, I'm never going to be good enough at this. It's just too much. I mean, they're great. I'd love to be, but I know I would just sit there and not stop. And when I start feeling that, I'm like, I've got to get away and do something else. Otherwise, I'll just be playing the same level till I'm 80.
Well, bringing it back to the work stuff for a little bit then, as cozy as the personal stuff is, I do have a bit more of a general question about some of the other stuff that you do, because I know obviously you've been working for PlayStation Access for Oh God, do I say 15 years? Is that allowed, or am I going to get gutted?
It will be 15 years this summer, yeah, which is
good
crazy.
lord. Well, congratulations on that first and foremost. But obviously, I know that PlayStation Access is technically now a part of We Are Reach, and I was wondering if you could tell me a bit more about like what Reach is like, really. Mostly because I know that it does a lot of different things for a lot of different IPs, and honestly, some of the things that have been listed on the website are genuinely, like, quite mind-blowing. Like, wow, I've met this dude. What do you mean? Like, he's helped work for stuff on Netflix and The Witcher and, you know, some really big things. Yeah, what specifically does Reach really do?
Well, Reach was started in 2017 by myself, Dave Jackson, and Nath Dighton, and our only goal when we set up the business was we just wanted to continue making PlayStation Access for as long as we possibly could. PlayStation Access it's owned by PlayStation, so it's an official UK PlayStation outlet, and PlayStation is our client, and we continue to make PlayStation Access for them today. But as the time went on, and as you know, the company started to grow, we realized that we could maybe take what we were doing with PlayStation Access and take that philosophy and maybe apply it to some other clients as well. And we've been lucky enough, you know, the business has been going 9 years in April.
Oh God, yeah, 2017. I keep thinking 2017 was like last year. It's not
nine,
great.
9 years ago now. And then, so we've been lucky enough, as you say, to work with Netflix. I'm not directly involved with the work that happens with Netflix. You know, we have an amazing team of people here now. We've got 25 staff, I think. So we started off with just 4 of us when we started the company. There's now 25 working on various different projects for various different clients, both in games and in entertainment. So my sort of role is still very focused on the PlayStation stuff, and then other bits, boring business bits, meetings and emails and decisions and, you know, all of that kind of running a business admin type thing. But yeah, we have PlayStation and Netflix are 2 of our biggest clients. We work a lot with some movie studios as well, Lionsgate, Studio Canal, typically doing social video for them. So we do a lot on TikTok now and across other social platforms, still a lot on YouTube and Instagram. But what we do sort of varies client by client. Some clients we make 1 or 2 videos per week for their TikTok channel. Other clients we're sort of planning and doing the strategy for entire social campaigns and doing live action shoots. And, you know, there are people in the company who are able to do things far beyond my level of technical expertise. And I get the privilege of sort of coming into work and looking over people's shoulder and seeing them work on incredibly cool things. We have, I don't know if you've seen the new game that Zaum, the Disco Elysium studio, has coming up, Zero Parades. We've been working on the trailers for that. That's cool. That's a really cool looking game. Recently, we started working with Remedy on the social campaign for Control Resonant, which is, you know, coming up later this year, which is, you know, an unbelievably exciting thing to be working on. So yeah, there's like an ever sort of changing roster of stuff that we're working on.
No, that's really cool. Have you had a favourite thing that you've worked on?
Me personally, my role has always just been on PlayStation, so I've not really had much involvement with some of the stuff out beyond that. But we did get to
claim credit.
We got to do a very cool piece of work a few years ago. In the sort of the early days of the company, we worked on a video for Codemasters when they were doing a video for Dirt 2.0, I think it was at the time, and we went and did a live action shoot at a rally track and had like a rally driver, and we had like a director and a DOP shooting on a drone, and I had serious imposter syndrome on this shoot. I was the director, but basically all that meant was I stood around with a clipboard whilst everyone else actually made the thing. It was a very cool experience, though. Very cool experience.
So what I'm hearing is you weren't in front of the camera on this occasion.
No.
Because Jack very kindly linked me to a video where you were in front of the camera, and quite honestly, I'm surprised that you've never reprised roles like the zombie cheerleaders. What's going on there?
Yeah. I remember that.
His face fell there.
So what are you going to bring up? Yeah, that was fun. So we were just filming a segment for Access. I think it was Lollipop Chainsaw would have been the game.
Oh yeah,
it couldn't have been anything else, really.
There was a dance group from Pinewood Studios who all got dressed up as zombie cheerleaders and did some cool dances. And for a joke, because the makeup people were still there, they were like, how about we make you up to look like a zombie and you can wear this cheerleader outfit? So I did, and it was fun. And I went outside the Excel Centre and did a little cheerleading routine, and then skipped back to the hotel whilst before my dignity completely left me.
There's no such thing as dignity at MCM.
Not at MCM. MCM, you probably would have looked unusual dressed, quote unquote. I know the word normally.
I was still getting quite a few looks, despite the fact I was surrounded by people in cosplay. I was still getting a few looks. But no, that's a fun memory. Like I loved doing things like that. Just clowning around and having fun.
That's something that's sort of often comes up through all the videos on Access. There's quite a lot of the times there's really silly bits come up and stuff. And I mean, probably going to mention your student film now, which I pre-warned you about. Talk us through that, because I found it because it was shared on the Red Shirt Cinema Club's Patreon page, and I think is it your third year film for university?
Yeah. So I did film and TV for my degree, and that was the final project of the practical module. We each just had to go out and make our own short movie, and we got graded on our own movies, but also graded on how we helped on other people's films as well. So yeah, that was just, again, me just wanting to have fun and make something that was very much like the things I loved at the time, which at the time were Sin City, The Matrix, and it's full of Final Fantasy Advent Children music as well.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to, everyone else was doing student horror movies or romance movies, and I was like, I want to try and make an action movie. And it didn't look anything like I'd originally envisaged it would look. You come up against loads of roadblocks when you're trying to make it. Originally there was a big shootout at the end that we wanted to film in like a bar that my dad's friend owned, and I had another friend who was like, oh yeah, I can rig up like glass bottles so they explode, and I had this amazing vision of like a shootout at the end in this bar with stuff exploding all over the place, and it ended up just being shot in a white room at Aberystwyth University.
Release the Rob cut, that's what I want to see.
Rob cut, that would be cool. I was really impressed with that, actually. I mean, obviously, like some of the acting in it is really hammy, but the editing in it, legitimately, I mean, I listened to it from headset, and there's a part in the movie where Rob Pearson, as the character's name I don't remember,
Johnny,
is talking to the main character. That's kind of like the Otacon character, I guess.
Yes,
sort of like speaking through his... And actually, it cuts away from you in your room, smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then cuts out to him hearing you through his mobile phone. And actually, the editing on it is really good. Like, legitimately, I'm like, that's really... Like, the sound editing, it works. So I guess you've always been good at editing then. Because, And some of the stuff with the guns as well. Like, you did this bit where... You do like the Matrix shot, and there's like an up close shot of the guns when they turn, and it's this like illusion that makes it look like this guy has sort of done like an Equilibrium style hammer the guns down and reload them. So I mean, like, yeah, it's genuinely like I was like, okay, this isn't bad.
This is right. Proper guerrilla filmmaking, like trying to find all of the little tricks to make your shots look cool. Like, I was experimenting with slowly moving the camera up, and then in post-production, just speeding up that one bit, which gives you like a really smooth looking zoom from the bottom of a character to the top of a character. And we just add like a whoosh sound effect on it, and all of a sudden it makes it look like something out of the Matrix. Or at least I thought at the time when I was making it.
No, it definitely did, Rob, don't worry. It
good,
definitely did.
So
it's good stuff. It's I mean, it was enjoyable. Better than I could have done. I mean, I used to do Lego films and stuff like that, and I used to like find things like that. There's one thing I could never repeat it, where I'd the old Lego Studios thing and had it set up with like it was the old werewolf, like old Hammer horror film style thing that came with a Lego set with a camera, and I got it so this car had sort of flown over the top of the camera into this building, and it knocked it over, and I filmed it, and I could never repeat it again. And I was just like, well, that looks cool. I'm keeping that in.
Yeah, watching that student film for the first time really made me go back to my sixth form days, because I did media studies for my AS year. And again, we had practical homeworks to do. And yeah, I think one of the last things that we had to do was just create a short film. And I could not, for the life of me, at the age of 17, 18, come up with any original ideas. So I just decided to adapt Final Fantasy VI's opera sequence.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Ambitious, though.
Oh, very ambitious. I had 5 people to work with. It didn't go out quite as I imagined it to. I do seem to remember we were able to sneak into our assembly hall to film, like, Sally's singing to the audience. And at one point it cuts to, like, the friends that I had gathered there. This audience hall could easily host about 1,000 people. There were 4 of them sat there and then just loads of empty chairs. Sadly, before anyone asks, I have looked for this. I can't find it. I have tried every iteration of search terms. If it ever comes up again, I will let you know, but unfortunately I think it might be lost to the annals of history for this one.
It's gutting when that happened. There was another film I made that I likewise cannot find anywhere, which I am sad about. It's a shame. It's a shame that when things like that get lost, because it's fun looking back at them.
Oh, absolutely. I think the real lesson that we can all take away from this, though, is if you still remember it and if you're still in contact with these people, Rob, you could very easily get the crew back together and shoot it again.
I don't think so. I think everyone was absolutely sick and tired of me by the end of it. And no one wanted to speak to me again. Yeah, or maybe like a recasted reboot of it. Would be a fun project.
I'll fund it at this point. I want to see this.
I'd noticed that. I mean, you can see the sort of, in a way, a through line, because obviously, presumably, because you went off to university to do film and media studies, you were obviously interested in a career and that kind of thing. But you can see with some of the stuff on Access, particularly the Friday feature stuff. Obviously, sometimes, guess if you've got a time crunch, a lot of them are just you on the couch talking about the game and then the game footage. But more often than not, you'll have silly little skits pop up. Like there's one where you're randomly running around Bath streets just like trying to get someone's attention or something like that. It just comes out of nowhere, and it's just like little silly ideas, and it certainly feels like that kind of film school approach. Let's just do something a bit silly. This would be fun. Yeah,
Well, I think the end game of that was the Friday feature where we did a whole puppet invasion of the office, which is the most difficult thing we've ever made, I think. But I think, having watched that student film back now, probably the DNA of it is in there, sort of like silly, stupid, cheesy, over-the-top action sequences, overly dramatic music, lots of slow-mo.
I mean, it all comes back to just satisfying the inner child, really, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
It's what you see when you're 13 and you think it's the coolest thing ever, and funnily enough, it is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Is that the one where you've got someone recorded in the booth and then there's Delson's trying to strangle Rosie in the background or something?
Yeah.
Well worth watching. Fantastic. I guess I've got one more question before we take a break, if that's okay. It's sort of based upon some of the freelance work you did as a writer. Bit of a question around looking at your LinkedIn. It says you work for loads and loads of publications and stuff.
Yeah.
I actually bought an old copy of Games Master to read your review of Devil May Cry.
Oh, really?
DMC.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
I did. Because there's a website that has some who's worked on what, and this is the one I could find. I thought, okay, I'll grab that. So I guess I've got a quote from it, which I think is really cool. And it lines up with what we said before about how like you can see your identity through pretty much everything you've done. So the line in it is, DMC Devil May Cry. So the one that went away from the normal canon.
Yeah.
You said, for example, returning mega-villain Mundus is no longer a horned mess of fire and shouting. Instead, he's been revisioned as a corrupt bureaucrat. And I just think that's excellent. Fire and shouting. I mean, that's what I liked about it, was that knowing what you've done, in person and then obviously on videos and stuff like that, it's just so obviously you who's written it. And I think that was really cool. So I thought I'd mention that. But
that's very cool. I'd forgotten. I'd not forgotten doing that review, but that's cool to know that it exists somewhere.
Yeah, no, I'm a bit of a Mole might tell you I'm a bit of a.
This is where he pulls out the entire magazine collection. Run, Rob,
yes,
run.
quite a lot of games media stuff in my collection now, because that's just the way I am. But I guess question would be, I mean, because obviously it says here you've done lots of freelance. Was there ever a drive to be in line with scoring for those publications? Because obviously you gave DMC an 8 out of 10. Or 88%.
89 I gave it. Yeah.
Okay, so is that something that you were fully in control of, or was it something that you had to align with a magazine's?
No, they're always very good. I think they'll try and select the most suitable. Certainly when I was doing it, this is talking like 10, 12 years ago now. They'd always try and select the most suitable reviewer for a game, and then 99% of the time you'd be trusted to give your opinion on it, and they would go with whatever score you gave. Obviously you need to have a little bit of knowledge about the publication you're writing for. Games Master wouldn't score a game like Edge Magazine would score a game. So if you're reviewing a game for Edge Magazine, you need to have the tone of the magazine in mind a little bit. But by and large, no, it always felt quite natural. And, you know, I think probably once I was asked to sort of like rewrite big loads of a review, not really because of any other reason other than I just not got it right. But in terms of, you know, your opinion would be trusted, and the score that you would give a game would be the score that appeared in the magazine. With Devil May Cry in particular, the cool thing about that is it was the first published review of DMC, Games Master, just because of when the magazine came out. So my review was the first publicly available review of that game. And
hell yeah.
And I felt quite scared at that prospect because it was quite a controversial game at the time. People were, you know, up in arms about the fact that Dante's hair wasn't silver anymore and all of this kind of thing. And I was terrified that I liked it so much. I was like, oh my God, I think this game is really, really good. What if my opinion is wrong? You know, because sometimes it's easy to, here's what I think of a game. You go on Metacritic and you see that, oh, my opinion is the same as everyone else's opinion. There was no other opinion.
Got it right. Yeah.
There was nothing else out there. And so I remember being absolutely terrified that I was going to give it, you know, I was like, oh shit, I really thought could it be a 90? I was like, oh, I don't know. I think it's really a 90. And maybe it should have been a 90. And I was too much of a coward and ended up giving it an 89. But thankfully, you know, my opinion was shared by quite a lot of the people. And I still maintain, I think that's a really, really great action game. DMC Devil May Cry.
I think it's, as a game, it's the best one that's been made for Devil May Cry. I think I have a soft spot for, you know, the wisecracking Dante. I really like the latest one, Devil May Cry 5, as a you know, story very lousely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much story to it. It's complete nonsense. But no, as a game, I think that's the best thing they've ever done. I think it's brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
It is a brilliant game. And the boss fights in particular are so imaginative and visually unique. I mean, I remember there's a whole boss fight where you fight like a news anchor inside a TV. It's amazing.
Well, everyone give it up for Rob Pearson, trailblazer, clearly.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
The positive on that is, I suppose that, I mean, this is maybe a general point about magazine writing, but there's probably a few people that ended up buying that game based off of what you said as well, especially if it was the first one out. So yeah, I suppose that's a positive.
I guess so. I mean, you know, looking at YouTube comments, there are definitely people out there who've looked at games or bought games because of things that I've said about them in videos, which is why I think it's always very important, and why I would, you know, we are an official outlet of PlayStation Access, but I would never say anything or write anything that I didn't actually think or believe was true.
And on that note, Rob, what are the next lottery numbers?
We'll share it, don't worry.
Well, I think that might put us at a perfect time to take a little break. When we come back, we can talk more about Final Fantasy VII.
Excellent. See you in a minute.
See you in a bit.
Welcome back after that short break. So we've been speaking to Rob Pearson about his career, really, and games and other stuff like that. So now we're going to dig into, I guess, Final Fantasy in a bit more detail. So Final Fantasy VII is Rob's favourite Final Fantasy. I'm sure other ones might come up. I guess the first question really would be, what was your first experience with Final Fantasy VII? I think you alluded to this earlier, but your first time really playing it and first time feeling it had an effect on you.
I remember playing it, it must have been the summer of maybe 1999. I'd have been 12 or 13, and I had a friend called Darren who loved playing Final Fantasy and sort of convinced me to buy it, and I saw it. I had the platinum version of it, so you probably remember PS1 games. After they'd been out for a time, if they sold a certain amount of copies, they'd get a platinum edition, which was, I think, a slightly cheaper, more affordable version with like a silver strip instead of a black strip.
Ugly, hated
platinum
versions.
I hated it as well, but that was the version of Final Fantasy VII I had. And yeah, there's nothing really complicated to say other than I started playing it and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it was the first game I'd really played which told a story on that kind of scale, and which lasted that long, you know, talking about a big 30, 40 hour epic. And like I said earlier in the first half of the recording, just, it felt like I was playing a fantasy novel, just the way I was able to hold all of the characters in my head and give them a voice like you would a character in a novel. Sort of the way the way they spoke was all in my head. As I imagine everyone would have had their own separate version of all of those characters and how they sounded like and how they interacted with each other. But it was so characterful, especially when you consider the technical limitations of, the art style. Like, each character model was so expressive and full of so much personality that it was very, very easy for me to immediately be sucked into it. And the world's so evocative and beautifully realized. The soundtrack, I don't need to say anything else about Uematsu's work, but it's, one of the greatest video game soundtracks ever composed, in my opinion. And, again, nothing really complicated about it. All of those elements together, and I was just absolutely obsessed with it for this entire summer holiday.
God, back when we had summer holidays, remember those?
Yeah, it's so good. And, I distinctly remember the feeling of being in my bedroom and being able to feel the heat from outside. My window open a little bit just to let some air in. The curtain sort of like twitching a little bit in the breeze, but the curtain pulled shut so that no sunlight could come in and put glare on my TV. And I can remember the smell of my bedroom and just, the door would be shut. I'd be safe and cocooned in my own little world. I'd leave just to get snacks or go to the toilet, and that was pretty much it. I remember being obsessed with the chocobo breeding side quest.
Yes.
And there were no online guides at the time, so I had to find out everything organically. And there's that character, the Chocobo Sage character, who reveals new information maybe once every 2 or 3 in-game hours, and you repeatedly have to fly back to him. But that was what a thrill to first get your first green chocobo and realise, it's actually working. What the Chocobo Sage says is working. And I had like a mini sleepover with my sister in my room because she was so into it as well. She's like, I'm not going to bed. And we stayed up probably all night just doing this chocobo breeding. Oh, what a summer that was. Yeah,
I feel like I was there for all of that now.
Yeah, that's cool. It's something about. It's interesting. Everyone has the same story. Or a lot of people have the same story about summer holidays because that's it. I've got an association with playing Final Fantasy games during the summer because it was like I've got all the time. I could just sit and play it. I can just take 3 days and just do the whole thing. And it's just because they're so long. I mean, even at the time, a lot of other games at the time were either you could finish them quite quickly or they were pick-at games. Like I always thought Crash Bandicoot was do a level a night or something. But Final Fantasy was like, I don't want to stop. It's the morning, and I can't save it yet. What's going on? I've got to get to the save point, which is another thing as well.
Yeah. So I guess the immediate follow-on question for that is, who's your favorite and who's your least favorite characters
in Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah, let's get to the controversial stuff, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Hot takes.
I don't know how controversial this is going to be, really, because obviously my least favorite character is Kate Sith. Everyone's least favorite character,
obviously,
everyone's least favorite character is Kate Sith.
There's going to be the one defender that's in our community now that's like, hang on a minute.
I want to say something a little bit more interesting other than just listing the usual suspects, though. So,
okay, here's a better question if you want to go for something against the grain. What's your favourite part about Kate Sith?
My favourite part...
Give me your favourite part about your least favourite character, and then your least favourite thing about your favourite character. Okay. Let's switch it up.
Okay, so Kate Sith, he has that sort of moment of redemption, doesn't he, after he's revealed that he's a spy, and he sacrifices himself at the Temple of the Ancients to obtain the black materia for everyone. And that was quite a poignant moment, I thought. He sort of reveals who he is. Everyone accepts who he is, and he's never coming in the party. I'm never fighting with Kate Sith, but I'll give him that moment where he's sort of like, you see his his marshmallow character walking through the Temple of the Ancients, prepared to, in the knowledge that this is the end for him, or this iteration of him. And there was something quite touching about that, I thought. Well done, Kate Sith, for that moment in the Temple of the Ancients.
You redeemed yourself somewhat.
And I'm trying to think, Cloud's an obvious one to say for the favourite character, but I also really I love Cid's character in it. I love that. Probably for me is, there are the big emotional beats of Final Fantasy VII are the famous ones, obviously, with Aerith. But for me, a moment that really stuck in my mind emotionally was when Cid finally gets to go into space. And he sort of comes to terms with what a horrible person he's been to Shera, and how Shera has been correct all along. You see that sort of that facade that he shows to everyone, that gruff, miserable. Ever since his dreams of going into space were shattered, he's become like this layabout, this grumpy layabout. and that all sort of melts away as he goes into space, and there's that scene where he's just looking out the window and the music dies and he's there, and it's like, at this point they're thinking they might die, but he sort of strokes the window and looks out, and you just hear sort of ambient space noise, and it's an incredibly touching moment, I thought. There's that, and obviously the moment with Red 13 seeing the truth, he gets the truth revealed about his father in Cosmo Canyon. Those for me are the two moments that really stick in my mind.
I know the Red 13 and Seto part was actually one of the things that you put in like the 7 best moments in Final Fantasy, like just the whole series overall.
Yeah.
Still sticking by that opinion?
I would say so, yeah.
Good choice.
I think, an older, grumpier me now is talking about that Sid moment a lot, and if I was to make that video again, I might put the Sid moment in there. But the Red 13 moment is pretty magical. Yeah, I watched it again recently, funnily enough. I was watching a replay of the playthrough that Dave and myself did. And that moment is, even now I think it holds up. It really holds up.
It's the teardrop, isn't it, that gets me.
It's the teardrop, it's the music. I mean, there's some parts, like you said, Uematsu's work on the soundtrack is just phenomenal anyway, but there's some parts, and I've noticed it all seems to be like the same pitch of a certain like weird MIDI instrument, and I have no idea what the pitch is or what the instrument is meant to be, but like it moves me to tears every single time. It's, I can't remember the name of the track at the moment, but it's this track that plays when you're on the gondola ride with Aerith or Tifa. There's something about it when it goes high pitched that gets me right in the throat, like every single time. And I think a very similar kind of pitch is actually used with Nanaki's like theme when you're actually talking to, or not finding out about Seto as well. So yeah, absolute tearjerkers for all the right reasons.
I think I know the piece of music you're talking about. Yeah, and it's that very sort of slow, wistful, melancholy piece of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about a gondola ride, isn't there? Sitting on a fairground ride, reminiscing about the past.
The fireworks in the background.
Yeah.
There's something about Final Fantasy VII. I mean, obviously the series is very introspective, but in particular, Final Fantasy VII is very good at offering majority of its cast alternative point of views to what they believe. And you see that with Sid. I mean, it's something that I only finished Final Fantasy VII properly, rolled credits on it a couple of years ago. But I'd gotten like halfway through when I was a kid, and I played it later than 8 and 9, so it didn't quite get in there for me until later. But different rapport with Sid, because obviously originally with Sid, my perspective on him was he was just this grumpy old man at 33. Old man, right?
But there's no way he's 33.
But actually, like when he first leaves Rocket Town, and there's that really cool cutscene, which looks a bit dated but still cool, where he does a sprint onto the tiny Bronco.
Yes.
And then he turns around, he's like, he's sort of, the language is like, yeah, I'm just coming along with you guys because I fancy it. But actually, looking at it as a slightly older person, he's like lying to them because he genuinely is quite moved by their more youthful, they're going to do something about these problems. Yeah. And that's my interpretation of it as being a bit older, which I think is really cool to have that kind of layer in a game that's that old. And,
Yeah, it's sort of been shaken out of his apathy by, this force of nature, this group of people who are coming to,
Which, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can definitely see aspects of that in my life in the real world now. Like, I mean, you hear about younger people standing up for what they believe in, especially with all of the genuinely terrible injustices around the world that are going on. And every single time I hear about people, it doesn't actually have to be younger than me, but anyone standing up and like doing what they believe is right, no matter what the consequences is, like, yes, like it does fill me with the same kind of feeling that I imagine Sid was probably filled with. Like, yeah, these people can maybe do something, maybe things will get better. It's worth trying, which I think is a really good line to keep going with. Like, thank you, Final Fantasy, for reminding me that life's worth living sometimes.
And it's like that, it's a core theme, I think, running through most Final Fantasies, hanging on to that hope, and then that hope binding together like a group of people who you might not otherwise think would come together, fighting against all odds. It's usually, the Empire or like an empire, oppressive military force or, a demigod hell-bent on the world's destruction. Whatever it is, there's always something to rally against.
I hate when that happens.
Flipping demigod again this morning.
So, Sephiroth, let's talk villains then, since you've very helpfully brought it up. I know in one of the PlayStation Access videos you mentioned, like, Sephiroth, pretty strong dude, pretty cool dude, leaves an impression, kills a 40-foot tall cobra. How do you feel about him, like, overall as a villain?
He's the most villainy villain, I think, that you could ever come across. And I find it interesting looking at the other sort of games in the Final Fantasy VII canon now that explore Sephiroth before his fall, and who is looking at this guy thinking that he's going to be anything other than a world. He's called Sephiroth. He's got the.
No, they didn't have gamer tags before 97, Rob. We didn't have the XXX Sephiroth XXX before Sephiroth.
He is the Darth Vader of video games. He's he's evil incarnate. He's the perfectly designed video game villain. He's got this charisma about him. You're drawn to him despite the fact that you're also terrified of him. The game does an amazing job very early on with that flashback sequence of showing you just how strong he is when you're used to dealing 100 points of damage. All of a sudden Sephiroth's in there slashing these dragons to pieces, doing 3,000, and you're just like, oh my god, how the heck am I ever supposed to beat this guy? He's got this mystique about him. I don't want to know too much more about him, really. It's that mystery that creates that aura around him. And again, there's the non-deep answer is he just looks cool, doesn't he? It's just really cool. Tetsuya Nomura has done an amazing job designing him. He just looks like an absolute badass. He is the yin to Cloud's yang. The two of them work perfectly together as hero and villain. Brilliant, iconic. You can't get a better villain than Sephiroth, in my opinion.
Well, they know they struck gold, didn't they, with the burning Nibelheim scene?
Oh,
because I think that has appeared in every version of Final Fantasy VII there's ever been.
I've seen that fire rendered so many different ways.
I think it's every. I think even Dirge Cerberus has got a flashback to it for 3 seconds. It's
just this is the best thing. There. Well, he wasn't awake
this is
at
the
that
best
time.
thing this is the best thing we've ever done. We've got to put it in everything to do with Final Fantasy VII. And actually, you know what? I'd go with that. I think it's one of the most iconic shots. The gleeful, or I don't know what you call it, gleeful look,
the little smirk. He just looks up from the flames,
just
gives the smirk, and then turns around and walks through the fire.
Yeah, it's just
it's a proper mic drop moment.
Terrifying.
Mic drop. Yeah. Sorry about the village. Boom.
Yeah. How am I ever going to beat this guy? Yeah, absolutely. It's so well conceived in that game as well. I mean, there's a great video. I don't exactly know who it is, but there's a thumbnail of Sephiroth done out like Jaws on the Jaws poster because the whole point is that you don't see the shark in Jaws until the end of the movie, and Sephiroth you don't actually see the real Sephiroth till right at the end of the game, and it's set up very similarly. You hear about Sephiroth, or you have a flashback about Sephiroth, and you think, oh my god, big him up in your mind before you actually get to him. That's just incredibly well conceived, I think.
I agree.
I do think it's interesting that you brought up there that you don't need to know more about his backstory. And I think some of the best villains, you don't need to know anything about where they came from. It is nice to humanize them and to understand why they are the way that they are. But also, sometimes you just need someone to be a bit evil and do a genocide in a little village and the backburners. So following on with that then, what's your general thoughts on the rest of the compilation? Because they've done a lot to flesh out Sephiroth.
They have.
And some of them have been well received and some of them haven't.
I will admit that I'm not a massive, I've not played most of the compilation. I've watched Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I don't have a huge desire to dig into that stuff. I will readily admit, Final Fantasy VII exists for me as this wonderful experience that I have. And I think, you can't get something as well loved and as successful as Final Fantasy VII and not explore fleshing it out, right? Star Wars probably is the movie equivalent of Final Fantasy in that respect, where you've got this original trilogy of movies that has since spanned various other films and spin-offs that have been received and not well received and liked and not liked. For me, I don't need to know how Han Solo came to know Chewbacca and how he got the Millennium Falcon. I don't need to know. Other people might want to know. Cool. For me, I'm happy leaving it with Final Fantasy VII. I've still never finished Crisis Core. I watched and enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I am a big fan of the remake trilogy. I think what they're doing is sensational. I really do. I know that there are some people in the fan base who are less receptive to it, but I think what they're doing is brave and bold and creative and unbelievably exciting. And I know that a lot of it is drawing in from the compilation, and there's probably a lot in the game that, as a result, is going over my head a little bit. But for people who can enjoy that stuff, great. You know, there are posters of characters, I understand, in Rebirth, that if you've not played a certain game in the compilation, you're not going to know who that is.
Yeah.
But I think they've done it in such a way that if you do know it, you can enjoy it. But if you've just played Final Fantasy VII, or even if you've never played Final Fantasy VII before, you can still come into this game and,
as you said earlier, Jack,
it's
the speaking for the people in the back. It's the pointing out of the people who definitely know this one's for you, but also if you don't know, you're not missing out on too much because it's a blink and you'll miss it cameo for the most part anyway.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed with the remake. I still haven't gotten around to Rebirth yet. It's on the list. There's so many things on the list, and I've been told I'll enjoy it, but
it's really special in my opinion. Rebirth
still there on the shelf, not touched yet because of all the stuff we've been doing with this channel. We've
just don't have the time
not
anymore.
got round to Rebirth yet because I know it's a time sink, and I'm like, I know what's going to happen is I'm going to sit there and I'm going to play every mini game and I'm just going to lose 200 hours of my life. But,
I'll be texting you like, Jack, where are you? Like,
how do you do Queen's Blood?
Have,
I don't know. Like,
have you managed to avoid spoilers for it so far?
Mostly, except the one really big one,
right,
unfortunately. But I mean, I'm still very much looking forward to the journey of getting through it, which I think is definitely going to be the most important part. And I mean, going into Remake, by the time that I was able to play that, because I'm exclusively a PC player, I had to wait the 2 years before I was able to play that, because it came out, it was 2020 on PS5, wasn't it? And
that's
then
right.
2022.
Yeah, it was.
I got it delivered on my birthday.
It was a COVID year. I remember Remake coming out just as everyone was going into lockdown, and
a good game for it.
What a gift! What a gift that game was at that time.
But yeah, so by the time that came around to be ported to PC, I kind of knew pretty much everything about it, which I was pretty let down by, honestly, because it was like, okay, well, I know it's not an exact one-to-one remake. I know they've changed things. I know they've introduced things. It's not really a remake, but whatever. And then I went in and I played through it, and I couldn't stop, like, laughing just the whole way through and, like, kicking my feet and just having to take moments to walk around and be like, I recognise Johnny's parents, like, just in the slums. I recognise that dress from a mile away. Or, you know, I'm finally going through, getting to the Reactor 5 bombing mission, and I'm looking down at Midgar, and I'm like, I'm finally fucking here. Like, it was genuinely so exciting. And that's part of the reason why I feel like I'm waiting for the perfect point to actually sit down and play Rebirth. I want to have that time. I want to have that, like, energy to really go into it and just be excited. I'm almost thinking that I kind of need to replay Original 7 first again, just so I've got that fresh in my head. Not that it needs to be, because I know the damn thing back to front at this point, but like, I just want to go into it knowing exactly what I want there to be, and then to see what I want there to be, you know?
It's a good shout, I think, and Rebirth for me it's up there with as my game of the generation, I think, so far. That and Death Stranding too.
Really?
It's a very close run thing. But yeah, Rebirth is a real special game, I think.
Hang on. It's between Rebirth and Death Stranding too, so it's always between Square Enix and Kojima for you then, is it?
Yeah. Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention I've done Remake as well. I've played the first chapter of Rebirth, and I also did I was lucky enough to get on the bus and do the demo before Rebirth came out. That's a nice memory. So I've done the whole Nibelheim flashback bit, which is really good. And the thing that struck me on that was that, you know, you mentioned Sephiroth's design, is that obviously in a game from 1997, I mean, it still looks good to me. I mean, it looks pretty blocky now, but you can see Sephiroth as this huge bloke, big broad shoulders, and then child Cloud and Tifa, and it just becomes that much more intimidating. And it's like, okay, this is something really special, how it's sort of directed and shown. And I think the voice cast as well, absolutely incredible. I think
Agreed.
Really, really, all of them have just managed to sort of, I don't know, just somehow
smash it.
Yeah.
Somehow smash it incredibly well. I mean,
it was a difficult thing to do, I think, and I was anxious about it, about hearing what they would sound like, having these characters in my head for so long. But I think what they did was remarkable. I really do. Like, it's, you know, it could have gone so wrong.
yes.
I don't think they're perfect games, especially Remake. There's a lot of sort of like padding in there, I think. But I think when it's reimagining scenes from Final Fantasy VII 1-to-1 and just expanding on them and making them big and beautiful and epic, I think it's just an absolute dream. And it keeps the spirit of the original Final Fantasy VII alive, adds to it. Like you say, you get to experience areas from a new perspective, like walking out of the slums for the first time and being able to look up and see the underbelly of Midgar and see the city stretching off into the distance. An amazing moment.
Absolutely.
What stuck out for me, one of the things that I really remember from playing it was when you I think it is a bit of padding, but you go back because you go to Jesse's house, you go
Yeah.
off on a motorbike thing, go to Jesse's house, and you really get this. Oh my god, people live
Yes,
here.
yeah,
because you
yeah.
know what's coming, because you know that the plate's eventually going to fall. Spoiler alert. You're like, oh my god, these are real people
Yeah.
here. I mean, you don't quite get that the same way in the original.
The real big thing that I thought it absolutely nailed remake was the devastation of the plate falling, because it is glossed over in the original game quite a bit, and it really rams it home how tragic that is in remake. And even after the first bombing mission, the bomb goes off, and as Cloud, you have to walk through like a devastated area of Midgar, and there's innocent people who've been killed, injured. It's like, oh my god, like it brings home the story in a fresh way that I think is really effective.
And again, not to make it too real, but being a lot older and having lived through a hell of a lot of really awful things that have happened in the world, I look upon those kinds of scenes now with a very different eye to when I did in, like, 99. Like, I was alive when 9/11 happened. I was alive when 7/7 happened. I've been alive for so many other conflicts and so many other just images of devastation across the world, and I have very different feelings about them than I did when I was a child, which was, I'm a kid and I'm not interested, and very selfishly I get to turn my head away and just not think about this, and I feel quite embarrassed about that now as an adult, because there were people my age that didn't have that luxury of looking away, and it's not the same having to play a video game to get that similar kind of catharsis now, but also, you're forced to reckon with the things that you do in remake. You're very, very right, and I really appreciate that. While I do agree with some people in that parts of remake, I feel, have kind of watered down some of the things that they brought up in the original game. Character motivations, or, a focus on the more fantastical elements as opposed to, this is the overarching environmental theme. We've got the whispers now. Ooh, no, the whispers. We're not looking at Shinra or whatever. But I do really appreciate that the game takes the time to really slow down and go, these people are dead, and it's your fault. These people are suffering, and it's your fault. And you have to really genuinely reckon with, am I actually doing the right thing? Because 7's one of those games where I think no matter who you are, if you place yourself in any of these roles, you can make a very, very good argument for, I am doing the right thing. And I include Shinra, I include the Turks, I include Wutai, I include Avalanche. Every single person in that game is fantastically enmeshed with the rest of the world. And I think it's quite ironic that I think you said that Katsith is your least favourite character earlier, because he, I think, is the only real person to call out in the original game. People are dead because of you, and you've just been ignoring this. I think it's to Barrett, actually. It might just be after he steals the keystone from you at the Gold Saucer. But, I think Barrett's trying to lay into him, and Kate Sith turns around and is like, you kill people too. Your hands are no cleaner than mine. I'm just talking about it. What's up, man? For me, that was always a really powerful scene, even if I didn't quite understand it as a kid. And now as an adult, I'm like, actually, you deserve to be called out the same as you're calling out the people who are also doing wrong. So a very long-winded way of saying, I agree, Rob. I really agree with you.
Yeah, it's great stuff. What a game, huh? What a game.
What a game.
I mean, one point I make to slightly turn it into another Final Fantasy is that Final Fantasy IX is another one that stands out as being, there's no one really bad in that game. Everyone has their own agenda or motivation to behave the way they want. It's something that the series is usually very good at. I mean, sometimes it doesn't quite hit it, but it makes even the villains relatable. It's like, hang on a minute, if I was in that position, how would I behave? Which I think that's something they've always gone for, Square, is to make the characters relatable and actually sometimes make you think, hang on a minute, no one's really bad right through. Maybe I should change my approach on certain things.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think quickly about, is there anyone really purely evil in Final Fantasy?
I want to say Genesis, just because he's Genesis at this point.
Kefka's pretty evil in Final Fantasy VI.
Kefka's.
Yeah, and I feel like even then you could very much make the argument of, was it really his fault when he was, like, mind broken as a child, essentially? Like, he was raised to that position. He's not on the same level as anyone else. Like, that, I feel like there's an argument for absolutely everyone. Not discounting, the war crimes or anything like that. But
but I think the thing is, as well, is that pure evil with no motivation is quite dull. I mean, like Necron at the end of Final Fantasy IX. That's what he is. He's just pure.
Well, he's not. He's
non-life.
He's not anything, is he? He's just there. He's just there to, as he says, bring everything back to absolute zero or whatever it is he says.
Yeah. He's just there to quote Star Wars and go home.
And
he's all out of Star Wars.
Fear leads to anger.
He's got a cool battle theme, though.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll forgive Necron that.
Speaking of the battle theme, I was going through an old external hard drive and I found files on there from a very, very long time ago. I think 20 years ago. And this was back when I didn't have access to the OSTs proper, like in their actual format. I found old MIDIs that I downloaded.
Oh my god, I did this. I had this.
Yeah.
And I listened to them, and I remember listening to these MIDIs back in the day and being like, I kind of think these might be better than the actual soundtrack. Like, these are the bomb. I couldn't get through a single track without laughing my head off. And Necrons was the worst, because, you know, in the actual track, they've got, like, people moaning in the background, like Souls of the Dead, whatever. Yeah. They'd replaced it with cows mooing, but, like, in MIDI format in this track. It was so bad. I couldn't take it seriously.
Remember doing this. You just unlocked a memory for me. I was at college, at sixth form college, just in the PC library at lunchtime, sending emails, downloading Final Fantasy MIDI soundtrack files, and being like, oh my god, I've struck gold here. I found this incredible resource full of Final Fantasy soundtracks. And at the time, I was like, this is great. Like, we're so spoiled now. I can just hop onto Spotify and listen to whatever.
You had to work for it back in the day.
Oh, you did. And wait for it to download over whatever awful dial-up internet your college had.
See, Rob, now I have to know, did you also do the thing of, like, searching for the latest CG backgrounds and stuff like that? Because there's a couple of renders specifically from Final Fantasy XII, because I was allowed in the PC room at school around the time that had just released. So, like, the render of Ash doing, like, the pose... Oh, that's very, very nostalgic for me, and just a few images that were officially released like that kind of really get me in the nostalgia bone, and I've got to know if it's like that for you as well.
For sure, I had all of the desktop backgrounds for Final Fantasy VII. There's a beautiful suite of CG artwork. So they got Aerith standing, I think, in front of the High Wind. They had Barrett,
that's beautiful.
Barrett in the church with Marlene on his shoulder. Tifa looking up at the sky while sitting on the well in Nibelheim. Yeah, I had all of those. Downloaded.
Beautiful. Man after my own heart. Actually, that actually ties back into something that, again, you said on one of the PlayStation Access videos. I know you mentioned that we didn't really have trailers proper back in the day, the same way that we get them now. So you used to go into game stores and, like, pick up cases and look at the backs of them, and some of them were really nostalgic for you. I heard that and I was like... Yes! Like, I still look at some of the backs of those Final Fantasy boxes, 10 and 10-2 in specific, because I didn't have a PS2 when it came out. I just didn't have the money for it. So those two games in particular, it's like the backs of the boxes in particular, I kind of want them, like, framed on my wall more than anything else.
Backs of the boxes, back of the video game box is a thing I lament with video games now. I mean, most of the time, well, you won't have a box if you have like a digital copy of a game, and most of my games are now digital copies. But there was, going into a game shop and picking up a game and looking at the back of it, and the job of the back of the box was to sell you on the game. And I distinctly remember the back of Final Fantasy VII's box, the back of Final Fantasy VIII's box, which had that picture of Squall with the sword across him, and the screenshots on there, and you'd look at the blurb and you'd almost feel like you're falling into these images.
And then getting to go back and look at the back again once you'd finished it and you knew where they all came from. Like, finding out that the FF7 box actually has a screenshot from Aerith's death on the back of it. Like, that was like, Cloud. Oh my god, they just showed that?
It has Cloud lying Aerith down in the water, doesn't it? And I think it's got like a shot of Ifrit as well being summoned. And I remember before I played the game looking at this image and thinking, who is this? What is this fire demon?
I need that in my party.
My god, wow. Like, it just captures the imagination in such a great way.
Because I'm such a nerd, I have the Japanese versions of PS1 versions of Final Fantasy 7 through 9. And what's interesting is that you've got, they're different box outs and screenshots. And the Final Fantasy 8 one has a screenshot of Squall doing the Lionheart limit break, which for me was an amazing thing I found myself. It's like a secret. But it's on the back of the box. It's like, okay. And Kuja is on, I think it's the manual. Kuja was like another character that was like I'm the real villain, sort of in Final Fantasy 9. And never part of the marketing in the West as being part of the game, really. But he's on the back of the box in the Japanese version. So it's incredible how these things were sort of, I guess in a way, sold to the different audiences and different regions.
There'd have been far less scrutiny over embargoes and spoilers in that kind of time, I
mean, things will release in completely different months, sometimes even years
For
as
sure,
well.
yeah. You'd get a review you'd often in UK games mags be reading reviews of imported games. I remember reading the import review of Final Fantasy IX like 8 or 9 months before it came out in the UK. I was so excited for Final Fantasy IX. Anything, any sort of nugget of information that I could glean out of any magazine, I would just buy any magazine that had anything to do with Final Fantasy IX in it.
Actually, import's a really good word. Jack, didn't you say one time that you had it might have been offline that you told me this, but you'd found a magazine where they'd like literally translated the original Japanese text for an FF7 review?
So no, this isn't a review. This is, I don't know, Rob, if you remember, there was a magazine back in the 90s called PlayStation Tips.
I don't remember
used to
that,
have,
actually.
Yeah, it was a future magazine. It used to have guides for PlayStation games. An official PlayStation magazine used to have a paper booklet in the middle of it.
I remember that,
tips and stuff in it. And basically what they'd done is they clearly saw a market for tips and stuff back in the day. Obviously, they used to have Cheats magazines on the front, as a sort of cover mount. But this was its own magazine called PlayStation Tips. And the first issue from 1997, I nabbed it. It was something like 70 quid on eBay. But I thought, I've got to have this because it has Crash Bandicoot Cloud with the sword behind his neck on the front cover. And I just thought, and I think Tomb Raider as well. I thought, I've got to have that. That's just like everything I love in one place. And it has the walkthrough for Crash Bandicoot 2 in it, which is one of my favourite games ever. And it has the translated walkthrough for Final Fantasy VII because all of the different materia and equipment uses the Japanese names. They've clearly, paid someone to translate it. So it's not called like I don't know what the names would be. They're not called like Fire or Ice or Bolt. They're called, Blizzard, but they're also called like the literal Japanese translation, which I think is fascinating because clearly you're like, well, we've got to get a guide out. Let's probably imported the Japanese guide and then paid someone to translate it, and it came out literally, which is, I think, is great.
And probably left lots of kids confused.
Yeah. Funny enough, on the Final Fantasy IX front, because I've got quite a few of the magazines from that era, one of the early Final Fantasy IX official PlayStation magazine previews refers to Albert Steiner as Edward Steiner for some reason. And it's loads of stuff like that I think is great because looking back at it, it's probably a different relationship when it was before it came out. It's being able to see people in magazines not having the game available, so then having to import it and cheating to try and find content is really interesting.
I'm also just trying to think of the fallout if that kind of mistranslation happened now with the very global audience, the run up to Final Fantasy 16, and it's like, ooh, I've heard his name is I don't know, Sean, and then it turns out to be, Clive, something completely different. That would be mental now.
You get in trouble for calling her Ares now.
Oh,
it's even now.
I'm annoyed at myself for calling her Aerith all the time because for years she was Aeris for me.
Aeris,
and for everyone in the UK, obviously.
If it helps, Rob, the way that I've had to learn to deal with that for me is she's Aerith in everything new that's come out. But the original will always be Aerith. Yep. It has to be. It has to be.
I agree. Yeah.
So you're not one of those monsters that goes that when you find Aerith in the game, you change her name to Aerith.
No. At absolute worst, I might do a run one day where I try and remember all the names that my dad gave the Final Fantasy VII cast when he was first playing it, which for some reason I thought were the names of the cast for the longest time. Thank you very much, Dad, for just making me believe that. I remember watching this man play with Fatty Get, Who Flung Poo, and Sing Hai Song and Clammy Mog in the party. And if you can guess who any of those four characters are based on the names my father gave them and who I believed that was their real names for the longest time, I will buy you a beer.
I've got a really childish story about Pokemon. I don't think I've ever told it before.
Oh, God.
Basically, at that age where you think it's edgy to sort of swear. So I was 11 or 12. And I remember being I don't know if you ever had a Game Boy, Rob. But,
I did. I've owned every generation of Game Boy specifically so I can play Pokemon.
Yeah. So we used to have, at the end of term, there used to be this bring a board game in right at the end of the last day of term. We were allowed to bring a board game in, and one of the people in my class managed to convince the teacher, we could play Pokemon, bring our Game Boys in and play Pokemon. And I'd been really edgy, and I'd called all of my Pokemon shithead. Because I was 12. I was I think it was different variations. So one of them was called Shit Man. I think one was called Shit Boy. Right. And things like that. And it was just really childish. And I remember my teacher coming over and being like, what game are you playing there, Jack? I was like, oh God, I can't go into a battle or anything. I just have to walk around because it's
I'm playing Pokemon shithead, miss.
Yeah, no. I was like, no, I've got to walk around the town. Yeah, you can go around here. And there's a bush there. And it was I can't go into a battle because the word shit would come across the screen. I'd be in so much trouble. So yeah, that's my childish story about reading renaming characters.
Swearing's funny when you're a kid. I had really badly vandalised a history textbook in secondary school when I was a kid, and just, inappropriate drawings, people swearing, saying all sorts of stuff on every single page. But I was such a goody two-shoes at school that
they never suspected
They never
you.
suspected me. And there was one lesson where the teacher came up to me, and I had the book, and she looked at the book, and she was like, "Rob, I'm so sorry. It looks like someone's defaced the book. I can only apologise, Rob." It's like, and I literally would tell people, the book in history, the really funny one that everyone laughs at. I did it. And they're all like, no, you didn't. I couldn't even admit to it. I couldn't even own up to it.
No one believed you.
No one believed
Wow.
it was me, and it was my best work.
Well, I think that's probably the best piece of lore I'm ever going to learn about anyone this year. It's at time of recording, it's the 16th of January, and you've won the year for me, Rob.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
You need to get that textbook.
I've thought about it many times, and I've thought, man, I wish they should have presented it to me when I left school at 16 and got all my GCSEs, and here is the textbook.
Yeah.
So I'd love to look back on it now.
We did on the thing of using cameras to make films. In our RE, we were lucky enough to have cameras, and it was like go and do a Jesus miracle thing. We were all stupidly 13-year-olds given cameras to go around different parts of the school.
Who thought that was a good idea?
And there was this one where it was Jesus heals the guy that's been taken over by a demon, and we were like going and going, fuck you as the demon and stuff like that, and it was just stupid. And I remember we put our one on, and then everyone else was, tended to be quite good on the actual camera. But I remember the teacher left the room as one of the guys on the camera went, "Give me the fucking camera." And it was like, oh, okay, thank God the teacher wasn't in the room when we did that. And it came back in, and everyone thought it was hilarious. We were just like, brilliant.
Oh,
Good
well, I'm
times.
so glad to know that all of us goody two-shoes are actual just nightmares behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, I was the same as you, Rob, though. I was like, no one ever suspected me, so I was always like, whoa, yeah, it was first time I've done anything like this. Yeah, I wouldn't do it again, don't worry, sorry.
But typically, if I did anything wrong, I would get caught. Like, I was terrible at getting away with being naughty. But it's one thing I did manage to get away with.
Well, I think that brings us to a perfect place to start winding down then. Before we go, Rob, we do have a little surprise quiz, which I believe Jack might have informed you
He's
about, just
mentioned
to get
it.
your okay
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So we're gonna chuck a couple of quotes your way, and your task is to guess or remember who said what. Jack, do you want to go first?
Right, let's go to see if we can do the stupid voices. All right, everybody, let's mosey.
That's Cloud. He says that right at the end when they're all about to go and fight Sephiroth. And
Well done.
It's an amazing line. It's so out of character.
It really is,
and I
isn't
wonder,
it?
is it a translation thing? What's he actually saying there? But it's become iconic now, right? Let's mosey. It's almost like Cloud's catchphrase.
Even though he only says it twice during the entire game.
Does he say it twice? Does he say it?
Pretty much, yeah. I think he says it once very early on in the game, and then
really?
Barrett's like, dude, that's not cool. Can you say something
Wow.
like cool?
Okay. Well,
And then he never says it again until right at the very end.
Shut my mouth then. Maybe it is exactly the type of thing.
No,
Cloud would say.
that one is specific is from the end, though. Well done. Right, second one. So Sephiroth was actually here, by the way.
So Sephiroth was actually here, by the way. Oh, that's a tough one. Is that something that gets said in the Shinra building?
Very, very hot on the mark there.
Is it? Does Palmer say it when he sees one of the Shinra executives says it when he sees the president stabbed and dead in the chair?
Is that your final answer for a half point?
You're in the right ballpark. But
Who is it that says it? It's what other weakling? Does Scarlet say it?
I'm afraid not, Rob.
Damn.
That one's from Rufus.
that's from the man himself,
says
no weakling.
But you got so close. I'm very impressed, because I don't think I would have
half a
gotten
point.
that.
That's half a point. Okay, I get one now as well. Let's see if I can do this. Hang on, let's see.
Oh, God.
There are so many frivolous things in the world.
There are so many frivolous things in the world. Wow, you've gone on.
It's a great line, isn't it?
You're going real hard mode with these quotes. So many frivolous things in the world. I don't know this one. Sounds like something Vincent might say.
Final answer, Vincent?
Or something that maybe Bugenhagen might say. I don't know. I'm going to just throw a guess that it's Vincent.
That one, I'm afraid, is Hojo.
Damn!
It's Hojo. It's in the Shinra building as well, just before you meet Red 13.
Oh man, I'm annoyed at myself for not getting that.
All right, fourth one. Our orders were to seek you out and kill.
One of the Turks says that.
Do you want to have a guess at which one?
Been quite cruel with these questions, haven't I? I thought they were easy.
Does Elena say that?
Oh, well done! Full points for you.
Give him that.
See, the problem with the Turks is that there's only 4 of them, and one of them's silent and one of them's incompetent, so...
Elena's the best one.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
My favourite scene is when I think it's in Gongaga, and they're all talking about
yes,
who they fancy.
I love that
it's
scene.
so
Yeah. I love that. That's brilliant. Yeah, she's great. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can do the voice. No, I don't know if I can do it. No,
Go on, Jack, give it some welly.
Always to the eternal flow of time, which is far greater than the span of a human life.
And that's not Gollum. It's a crap Gollum, but it's not Gollum.
It must be Bugenhagen.
It is Buchenhagen, yeah. That was my attempt at Gurgi from...
Oh, I love Gurgi. I was trying to work out, is this Yoda? Is this Gollum? Who are we getting here?
No, I could do it better without the headset on. Honestly, I can. If I practice and try, I can do it.
Excuses. Right, I know we said 5, but I've got one last one for you, Rob.
Right.
Oh, God.
Both Gyahaha and Kyahaha are up to something. Want to eavesdrop?
Oh, that's... Kate Sith says that.
Well done.
Or Reeve says it through Kate Sith.
You know what? Give that man an extra half point.
And he's talking about Heidegger and a Scarlet. I love when he refers to them as that.
It's great, isn't it?
So like I was saying earlier, there's so much personality delivered through just how those two characters laugh. Gyahaha and Kyahaha. Brilliant.
I was genuinely really disappointed with Remake when neither of them laughed like that. But that's the core aspect of their personalities. What do you mean you've taken away the obnoxious laughs?
This is the kind of difficult thing. It's kind of tough to adapt that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you take something that works so well when it's written down and translate it into something that wouldn't seem utterly ridiculous when it's voiced by an actor? And you do in translation between the two. They're almost a different medium, Final Fantasy on PS1 and Remake. You're going to lose something in translation there.
Absolutely. But did it have to be Kyahaha and Kyahaha? For God's sake, Square.
If they could get an actor in who could convincingly say Kyahaha and Gyahaha, I would love to see it.
Well, I think that must be it for today then. Jack, do you know how many points Rob got?
So if you include that last one, he got 4.5, which technically means he dethrones Rosie Canuck as the person that got most points.
I'll take it.
And
which is what it's about. Yeah, that's the literal
You
reason.
keep asking me questions until I get sufficient points. Good.
Because we haven't met our quota yet. That whole idea for this quiz was stolen from Ben Starr.
God damn it, Jack. I was hoping we'd go one episode without mentioning him.
At the Final Fantasy Union quiz, which is where Moll and I originally met.
Wow. Oh, is that right? That's amazing.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff, Rob. Thank you so much for your time today and for coming on.
It's been a real pleasure. Really. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Whereabouts can people find you online if they want to look you up, Rob?
They can find me on PlayStation Access, or I'm on Instagram mainly in terms of social media, Rob_Pearson 86. No underscore, actually. I've got that wrong. It's just Rob Pearson 86. Or on...
There might be a Rob Pearson _86 out there who's about to get a lot of followers.
I'm not really on X/Twitter much anymore. I'm only there to look at football news, and occasionally I tweet grumpy football opinions, but otherwise that's it for my social media presence.
Jack, what about yourself?
Obviously, EXP required on YouTube and everywhere else. I'm Jack Mullen 8 on Twitter, and I occasionally go on there just to message people, really. And everywhere else, I'm JackieBoy34. How about you, Mel?
As usual, anywhere I have a social media presence, it's at Adramalek. And as usual, if anyone can find me a couple of hours spare in the day to get around to doing anything on social media, I would vastly appreciate that. Once again, Rob, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a blast.
It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Brilliant.